welcome to another episode of the Do It For Yourself podcast. I am your host, FOXANNE.
And I am your host, Laura, and this is a podcast for creatives by creatives.
This podcast is a mix of realness and feel-good vibes from your two new northern besties. Ding. Love that. Today we are doing a full episode on how to price yourself.
We are indeed.
It's been heavily requested because we're always yapping on about know your worth and add tax, and we need to learn how to price ourselves better. I did want to preface this podcast episode by saying we are not experts.
Oh, definitely not. We're still learning ourselves.
We're still learning. This is just what we do, how we do it, what we've learned along the way. We are in no way, shape or form money experts.
Well, I mean, if we're going off what we do with our money once we get it, we're definitely not experts.
No. Yeah, none of it touches my bank account as soon as it's in, it's back out again, which is not great. Before we get into that, I thought that we could have a little bit of a catch up because we've not had a catch up in a few weeks, have we?
We haven't at all.
So if you are watching on the YouTube version, you will probably notice that things look a little bit different than they did. We are now filming from Laura's new studio. Everybody give Laura a round of applause.
Oh my God.
Applause.
Thanks so much, guys. I just want to thank my parents, my friends and family, my gorgeous boyfriend, George.
So we because we were filming in Laura's spare room / office, it was like a balancing laptops on knees kind of job.
Yeah,
and like the mics were like really weirdly connected to just a really flimsy crate that would just move. And so now we have a desk and we have our mics up, and hopefully I won't touch them and play with them and make the sound quality.
We need
really
to be
bad.
Careful of putting our hands on the table because it picks it up like.
I know. So
do you know
sorry.
what I mean?
We are getting used to this.
Yeah, we are.
But yeah, no, so before, like I said, before we get stuck into the good stuff, the reason why you're here, we thought we'd give you a bit of a catch up on what we've been doing and anything like that. Do you have anything you want to say, Laura?
I'm in the studio, so I've just basically been painting in the studio. Every minute I get, I'm just coming in on the weekends and everything, just painting as much as I can. Just want it to be like a me space. Do you know what I mean? Because like I was saying in the episode when we said, to studio or not to studio, I was like, oh no. Like one of my reasons was I won't come in. I just won't.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, I need to make sure that this is a space that I'm really excited to come to. So I'm getting there with it. If you follow me on the Instagram, I'll have my before and afters, but I'm taking a run through it on my stories and stuff. So yeah, I'm very excited, very, very excited.
I'm excited. We're currently facing a partly done mural that's going to look chef's kiss.
Oh, thanks so much.
Once it's done,
it's going to say, if you can't find the sunshine, be the sunshine. And I think that's very nice.
I love that. It'd be nice to see that while we're filming.
Definitely.
Because this is it. Or maybe we might film in front of it. I don't know.
We'll see. We shall see.
We're still winging it. Yeah, so I'm currently redoing my website, of course.
Can I just jump in and say, I've seen a sneak preview and it's amazing. It's so good. There's that animation on it.
I'm so chuffed.
So good.
That's it. Like, I'm really, really trying to just learn new things, because that's it. I miss learning things. And I remember the first time I used Illustrator, I was like, oh my God, I'll never get a hang of this. And now I'm a whiz. Yeah, so I am learning how to use After Effects using free online courses on YouTube. It's a bit of a nightmare because it's so in-depth and stuff. But like I said that about Illustrator the first time I used Illustrator. So hopefully I'll try and just be able to animate things. It's something that I've always wanted to do.
Yeah, I love that. One day I'll be able to animate. I've tried a little bit on Procreate, but it's not the same.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
It is not the same. I just can't wait to become a whiz at it, which I'll only do that if I put the time and effort into it. But yeah, no, so my website is looking chef's kiss. It's going to have I'm actually making a portfolio. I've never had like a proper portfolio before, and I'm actually doing that. If you listen to our previous podcast episodes, you'll know Sophie from Fabstract, and she's coming in a few days actually to help me do my portfolio.
That's so nice. It's going to be so nice. And because I'm here as well, I can see you. Yeah. We can have lunch together.
I love it. Oh. I love that. I'm like bringing all my friends to the studio now. I'm like, no, come and see me. It's like a little place of work. But yeah, no, so hopefully by the time this episode goes live, maybe my website will be out. It's coming out on the 28th of March.
So it will be, I think.
It will be, maybe, yeah.
I'm just thinking about when this one's going to go live, but I'm pretty sure.
So my website will be going live on the 29th of March, which was yesterday if listening to this, on the day that it's come out. So go over and check it out. Go and have a look at my surface pattern shot, and I think I might be bringing my portraits back.
Love it.
I know, and my portfolio will be there. There'll be loads of different contact forms you can use to get in touch. But yeah, I'm super chuffed about it, and I think usually, because I'm one of those people where I struggle to do things, if something takes me a long time, I can't concentrate on it. Like, I need to
do it in a big spurt.
I need to do it in a big spurt. I need to just dedicate like 3 days of my life doing something and not think about anything else. Whereas this, it's been in the works now for like nearly 2 months. So
but it's so worth it though.
So
You've been working so hard on it, and I can't wait to see it, like the full thing.
I know, and all my rebranding, and it's just it's a vibe. It is a vibe. It's actually nice to design a website that isn't pink and red.
Yeah, you have like all the creative freedom as well, haven't you? To just, because I feel like it's great that you're doing your portfolio and website while you're having your rebrand, because you can just you can find yourself instead of.
And because I've allowed myself time to make changes on my website, because usually what I'll do is I'll give myself a time frame before when I start, I'm like, right, I have a week to do this. Whereas because I've not given myself a time frame, I'm like, when it's done, and then I'll announce it. But because it's like 95% done now, I've announced it I've still given myself 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, so I hope everybody likes it and get in touch.
There's no hope there. There's a guarantee, I tell you.
I thought you were saying there's no hope for me, and I was like,
oh, no.
Wow,
you don't
Laura,
need
thanks
hope.
For that.
You don't need hope. It's a guarantee. They're going to fucking love it. Oh, excuse my French. Oh, wait, another thing.
Oh, yeah, go on.
Mando. He's come in.
Oh, yes. Yes, I was like, your cat. We have met.
So, another thing, and I know that a few of you, because I've had a few DMs, people have been going along with the ride, and they were quite invested about the cat situation. So, Mando's my cat. And if you didn't hear, I was really worried about him not being allowed in. You're taking a picture of Luna. Luna's over there as well.
There, just chilling.
I was really worried about him not being allowed in, and I just thought, I'm just going to bring him in. And I did, and it was fine.
She was like, I think we've mentioned this in the past about how me and Laura are like weirdly the same person, but the same person as opposites, and that's a really, really like oxymoron thing to say. I think that's the word I'm looking for. But we are. So like, I'm the kind of a little bit of like the devil on Laura's shoulder, kind of telling her to do
I'm
things,
the angel,
and you're the angel on mine. So like, I was like, just bring her in, and then just like be like, no, I just thought it was allowed because you can bring dogs in. And then she was like, no, I have to really ask and get permission.
But then I was like, if I ask, they could say no.
So I was like,
and then what am I going to do if they say no? Because my landlord, I gave her my doctor's records, and I was like, they said that a cat would be good for my mental health because I've got depression and anxiety, and they were like, okay. So I was like, I don't want to have to do this here. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm very excited. So if you are looking on YouTube, to the right of me or to your left, I'm going to have my cat tree here. And it's going to be fine. But yeah, I brought him in. Everyone was like, oh my God, a cat. Everyone was really excited. I still haven't seen the owners yet. But if everyone else is excited, I think it's going to be fine. Yeah. They can't say no if everyone's excited.
No.
And he was fine. He's lead trained. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Put him in my backpack.
That is, yeah. He is lead trained. And I'm just so excited. I mean, I'm severely allergic to cats, but I don't seem to be allergic to Mando that bad.
Do you know what's so weird, right? So you're allergic to cats, but you're not allergic to Mando, whereas George isn't really allergic to cats, but he's allergic to Mando.
That's so weird.
It is weird.
That's so weird.
Right, anyway, let's get onto this. Let's get onto the episode, because I know that you've probably clicked on this because you want to talk about pricing. So How are we going to start this?
I don't know.
So I reckon we talk about how much we, when we started out, like how much we did price ourselves at, because I feel like everyone always starts off very, very low. It's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was doing client work. I've done like odd jobs for people for years and years and years, really. Just like do like a portrait or like a paint, because like I said, I was a painter. I'm doing like paintings for people or things like that. And I priced myself super, super cheap. I didn't really know how to price myself because...
Well, you don't. There's nothing out there on the internet that says this is how much you should price.
And there might be, but you have to actively like really, really in-depth search for it, and it's a very it's like art is a subjective thing, and pricing yourself seems to be really subjective as well, and it all depends on like experience and stuff, but we'll get into that. But so I, for example, when I first started, I was doing portrait paintings for like 30 quid, and it's only hours.
Like an actual painting?
Yeah, like an actual painting for like 30 quid. And then when I started doing more like digital work was when I was in doing my placement, and then I would do like logos and things like that. But my first 4 logos I did for free.
That's pretty standard, I think.
For family members. I was nice. Like, I've never done this before, can I just do you a logo? And then they was like, yeah, that's fine. But I did the logos for free. And then when I started charging, I think I was charging maybe like £15-20 a logo. I must see, this is it. I must add, when I say that I was doing logos, but I was just sending them one JPEG file, because I was doing it a lot for nail technicians who just wanted a logo for their Instagram. Like, it weren't
like a website. They didn't need like the vector file.
And they didn't have like salons or anything like that, so they didn't need like signage. Most of them were mobile nail techs that just wanted an Instagram logo. So that's what we're charging, maybe like 30. I think the most I charged at that point was maybe like 60 quid. And that was because it was like an in-depth like
like a
drawing of a hand with stuff
it wasn't
around
just text
it
and stuff.
And it's almost like because I can't remember who I was having this discussion with. I was because I've been doing my portfolio, and obviously I've lost all of my, hate to bring it up again, lost all my external hard drive.
Do you know what? I'm sorry, boy, it's traumatic. I get you.
It was just trauma. For a little period of time, I was using Dropbox, and I logged into my Dropbox, and I've got a load of like JPEGs there, but none of the like the AI files or anything like that. Yeah, so because I've been looking into doing my portfolio and stuff, I was like, there's some projects that I've got like JPEGs for that I'm not saying I'm not proud of them, but I'm not proud of them.
Well, it's when you're starting out, you've not learned all the tricks of the trade and like how to make it amazing yet.
Yeah, and I'm like looking at them like, I would have done that different now, which I think is completely natural, but I
think that shows that that's a good thing.
Yeah, and so I was like, it's great if I had every single client work thing that I've ever done. Yeah, so I've worked with like over 50 businesses in maybe like the 2-3 years that I've been doing
this. That's so good,
But a lot of them at the beginning were, like I said, not projects that I really want to showcase necessarily, because A, I feel like I could do better now, and B, it's just not my vibe anymore.
And I do feel like maybe that's... I mean, obviously, we want to say to everybody, price what you're worth, but I'm not saying that it's okay to charge so little, but maybe it is a little bit if you've not really got the experience.
Yeah, and I think...
And now, I feel like the difference between your work now and then shows why you should be charging more.
Yeah, and I think the more open you are about how you charge yourself and what you charge, the better the discussion will be, if you are comfortable. Because then if you're like friends with a graphic designer and they're like, right, okay, they charge X amount for this thing, but also they have been doing this for 10 years or they've been doing it for 6 months, you can kind of like vary like what industry standard is.
Yeah.
When me and Laura were planning this episode, we wanted to explain that like it's all right for us to sit here and be like, oh, charge more, you need to be charging all these amounts. But if you're not comfortable doing that, or if you've been doing it for 3 weeks, obviously don't charge
what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And yeah. That's the main
This is
thing.
it.
Just whatever you're comfortable with, you should charge. But
is.
please, I don't know.
It's tricky, so it's charge what you're comfortable with, but also know your worth as a creative and know what value you bring to the table. I think that's it. I think because a lot of people see design things as hobbies or being like, oh, I could do that. I could get Procreate and do that.
No.
But then when they actually start doing it, they realise
You've got to have
this
skill.
it doesn't look that great because you aren't creatively inclined and you don't know about compositions and like the way to
And
pair
colour and...
yeah. I think that's it. I think that's... I just wanted to do a lot of disclaimers at the beginning because I didn't want us to sit here and for you to think, oh, they're preaching at us, they're making us do this. But we just want you to know that do some really really great soul searching to realise like how valuable you are and then price yourself from there. Because people have paid millions and millions of pounds for logos, so... you can never think that you're overcharging.
Never. So I don't know, because I do feel like you need to charge. You're naturally going to charge less when you first start out, and that's absolutely fine. But I look back at what I used to charge, and I still think that was definitely too low, even for just starting out. Because obviously we've got an education background. Like I had a design job for 2 years, and I've obviously got a degree, and I still charge like £10 for an illustration. And it's fair. It's good to charge yourself low to start with so that you can get the experience, but I still think that was maybe too low. I shouldn't have done that low. But I was on Fiverr, so everybody prices low on there, and it was... I feel like maybe we might do a full episode on how to get into the industry and like what to avoid and what to do and what people go down, like which paths people go down. But Fiverr was just awful. I feel like people go on there and they know because everyone's charging so low on there. I think on Fiverr they ask you to do it in dollars. So I started charging $20 for an illustration, and it'd be whatever they wanted. And then after that, they take 20% off for them. And then PayPal would take a percentage off because I got paid through PayPal. And in the end, pounds-wise, it was like £10 for an illustration. And sometimes I'd spend hours on them because like they'd come back and say, no, that's not right. And because the kind of customers that go on Fiverr expect everything for such a small amount, they treat you like I had so many people were really lovely, and I had clients after that like who I met on there that were great, and I ended up obviously charging more. But a lot of the customers on there were terrible, and yeah, I feel like when you price yourself low, you sort of sometimes customers like that gravitate towards you. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, whereas, I don't know about you, but I've found that when I've started pricing myself higher, I get customers and clients that know that they're paying for quality and that trust me. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. I think we mentioned it last episode on Dude Lexi's podcast app about when I started charging more, my clientele shifted. I'd purposely priced myself out of some people's budgets, which is also... don't feel bad for doing, because some people, I think it's okay. Something that I've learned is not everybody will be able to afford you, and that's okay. There are people who, because I think not necessarily like every single time, but with majority of design work and majority of designers, you pay for what you get.
Oh yeah, 100%. And like, it's like, I mean, even outside of design, like if you're looking for a builder, and there's one builder that's charging £1,000 and another builder that's charging £500, a lot of people would go to the £1,000 one because they know that they can trust them. And then on the other side, some people will go for the £500 one just because they want it cheaper. And you're not paying for, you know, I know exactly what you mean. I don't know what I'm saying now.
Yeah, but but it's not always the case. Like, I know some designers that I've spoken to and I've been like, raise your rates, girl. Like, you're incredible. Like,
yeah,
I can't believe how. But then this is it. It's it's that narrative of me being like, oh my God, you should raise your rates. And it's like, yeah, but who am I to tell her to raise her rates? But whenever I say
it's a positive thing,
I say it from a point of love and light, of being like, you're undercharging. Like, I think you should. But then there's some other people who don't charge much, and I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Like, you're just starting out. Like, you do you, hon. But yeah, I think, like I said, I'm prefacing this from I've been doing freelance stuff since 2019. Oh my God, 2019. No, I haven't. Yeah, I think 2019 I've been doing it. So I've been doing it longer.
Same for me as well, 2019.
Yeah, so
oh my God. Oh, well, I was the end of 2019, so I'm like just over 2.
Yeah,
so
I think maybe me the same. But I think because of lockdown and COVID and stuff, I think it kind of propelled us forward, because there were so many businesses that were starting that I had in the 2 years that was happening.
People were doing their own thing, weren't they?
People were doing their own thing, yeah. So I had a lot of experience doing that, and I've worked with so many different types of companies. I've worked with so many different types of projects that I feel like I have a good knowledge on things like that.
So now you can price yourself higher.
And then when I do get my massive client, when these big companies start coming to me and asking for jobs, then I can price myself higher than that.
Manifest it
and all that.
So we wanted to talk about sort of how we built our prices up. I do feel like we've covered that a little bit. I feel like the best way to do it is just bit by bit. So like every time that, do you know what? Actually, I've got a piece of advice that someone told me, and I can't remember who it was. Or it might have been, maybe I heard it on a podcast, and they said, if someone's accepting your price straight away, it's too low.
Yeah.
So if you know that happens, next time, increase it a little bit higher, until someone says, whoa, that's too expensive. And then you're on the money.
Or if someone goes, oh, okay, yeah. And then you're like, yeah.
Like
it's like most things, people will pay what it's worth. So it's like,
if that's how much she says she's worth, then she must be. Do you know what I mean?
If we put it into like physical terms, so my mother-in-law says to me, she was like, you can put a price on something. She was like, you can buy a vase, and this vase, you can do research on it, and it says these vases are selling for £100. She was like, but you can sit on that vase and try and wait for £100. But if no one's buying it, it means it's not actually worth £100. It's worth as much as someone's paying for it.
Ah, that makes sense. Also as well, right? Why not, next time someone asks you for a quote, double your rate and see what happens. If they come back and say, sorry, that's too expensive, then go, all right then, how about this much? And you can sort of meet in the middle or whatever. But why not try? Why not? Like, if you feel like you're at the beginning and you did cheap, just double it and see.
Whenever I'm doing quotes, I always price myself high, so it'll be different now. So I'm completely switching up the way that I do quotes. So how I used to do them is they filled in a quote form, I ask them for their budget straight away, and I make it a required field on my quote form. So they have to be able to submit the quote form, they have to tell me their budget. Because then
if you're wasting, you don't want to waste your time.
I don't want to waste my time, because if they're like, oh, my budget's £50 for a full branding, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. And that is so far away from how much I charge that it's not even worth my time.
Yeah.
And what that response will be, hi, here is how much I charge. At this time, I am out of your price range. When you do have more budget, please do get in touch.
See, I do that now. So even if anyone DMs me, I'm like, oh, here's the form. Fill out the form. Give me all your information. And included in that is the budget. Because also I learned that from you. Yeah. I saw that you did that, and I was like, I need to do that too.
Because then I know if I can turn down a job as well. Because if they fill in my form and they want something that A, doesn't spark joy for me, or B, isn't really worth my while.
Yeah, so you then know, especially if they can't afford it.
Yeah, I think as well, because this is it. There's some jobs that I've taken and I have lowered myself to their budget because it's something that I want to be a part of. It's something that I'm like, oh my God, this would be sick. Like, I have not done anything like this for my portfolio before. Let's do that. This is amazing. And I also then make them very aware that this is how much I charge, but because I'm so interested in this project, I'm willing to lower my rates. Yeah. But then most of the time when you do say that, they actually raise the budget anyway, and they're like, no, let's let's do this. We wanted to talk about some resources. Something that Laura's actually spoken to me about that I didn't know was AOI.
So AOI is the Association of Illustrators. So I listened to a podcast with Sophie Rose Brampton on it, and she mentioned it, and I was like, oh my god, because at the time I was really struggling with how to price myself, and I think I'd asked her for advice as well. So we'll go into that in a minute about like asking people on Instagram and stuff, because I think that can be a really positive tool. But the AOI is Association of Illustrators, and it's basically, it has loads of resources on there for how to price yourself, like legal advice. I've got the Association of I think it's the Association of Illustrators book. There's like a legal guide that I bought from there as well that you can flick through, and it's like really cool and gives you all the information you need, and like a pricing guide as well, which is really good. But it has a survey, and I think they stopped doing it now, but I think every year they did a survey for like loads of illustrators, like of different, you know, different backgrounds and different pricing. It gives you on this pricing survey for different types of illustration. So, for example, a mural, I think they call it site-specific, how much you should charge per, I think it was per square metre, for different types of clients and different types of licenses. And then, you know, they've got animation. What else? Advertising. So obviously you charge different for all these different things. So you charge differently for one illustration that's going to go on a double page spread in a magazine compared to an illustration that's going to go on clothing or merchandise. So that was really good. It's just really great to base it off. I mean, even if you're not comfortable with charging the rates that are on there, at least you know like the ballpark sort of figure that clients should really expect for different sizes, because that's another important thing as well, isn't it? Depending on the size of the client. So like if a small business came to me and asked for an illustration, I would charge them a lot less than if a really big client came to me, like, you know, like a big fashion brand or something that's got like millions and millions of followers on Instagram. I would charge them a lot more because the value is more, because they're going to get more out of it. Yeah. They're going to make more money from it. Yeah. And that's important. But yeah, the AOI, I recommend it to everyone, even if you just like sort of have it for a few months and you look at the pricing guide and you can like have a little look and like sort of retain that information.
Yeah. It kind of gives you a starting point, and obviously you should be raising your rates yearly anyway because of inflation.
I mean, especially I think we're all going to have to do a lot this year, and it can't be helped, can it?
Yeah, all the prices of everything going up. Also, what we wanted to talk about was asking people on Instagram as well. Yes. Because like you said, you asked Sophie about...
Do you know what? I've actually asked her a few times, and I always sort of like, I feel like one thing we were going to say was approach with caution. So I asked her about, what did I ask her about? I asked her about a few things, but one of them was gifts. And I knew that she'd done gifts for customers before, like for small businesses, and somebody had asked me to do it. So I messaged her and I just said, it's completely okay if you don't want to give me this information. I won't be upset, because I know obviously this is your information, this is how you price your customers. But I'm struggling with this, somebody's asked me this. How much do you charge? Like, it would be great to know. And luckily she was like really lovely about it. And obviously we've chatted before, so it's not like I've just like jumped into somebody's random DM and said, how much do you charge for this? Because that would be really rude.
Well, this is it. This is some of the notes. Like I said, we've made notes first to make sure we're hitting all the points that we want to hit, really. And I was saying, when you do slide into somebody's DMs, do make sure that you, number one, know them or know of them. Do have some kind of conversation, either maybe like a conversation before, like you've been responding to each other's stories or something like that, so there is some kind of common ground there.
But then even then, I don't know, like don't just message them and be like, in the hopes that, I know I'm going to ask them for something one day. Like, do it because you're interested. Like, do you know what I mean?
This is it. Like, so there has been some people who have messaged me who I've never really spoken to before, and I get, like, I know that it can become like preconceived as gatekeeping. That word gets thrown around a lot in the design world. It's like gatekeeping prices, gatekeeping this. But I think it's not necessarily what you say, but how you say it. So I've had people being like, hi, I know that I've never messaged you before, I'm just starting out, I'm wondering how much you charge. And because I don't want to undercharge myself, but I also, like, I am starting out, so I would message them back and be like, hi, yeah, no, that's fine, here's what I charged when I first started out. However, it all goes off your experience, it goes off this, it goes off that,
and
this is what I charge now. Approximately give like rough guides, because like I said, every project is different. And I've had that, and that's fine, that's been a really positive experience. But like I've had messages being like, hi, wondering how much you charge, ? And I'm like, I don't respond to that.
No, I wouldn't even. You don't want to come across like nobody wants to come across as rude. So just make sure that you're being kind.
No, I see that, and I don't want to come across rude by not messaging back. But I think it all depends on your boundaries and what the person's boundaries is that you're asking. Like I said, you had that conversation with Sophie. I've asked Sophie a few things as well. I've asked Natalie a few things. I've asked Soph from Fabstract price. It all depends on what your relationship is.
Also, don't forget your pleases and thank yous.
Yeah, that's it. Just ask me like, hi, it's completely okay if this isn't like on your boundaries, like if I'm crossing like a line here about how much do you charge, how much should I charge. Because I think you can get more information from people who are actually doing it than things online. Cause I find it hard to retain information.
You've got to learn from your peers. That's the best thing to do.
And also, don't be a dick if someone doesn't tell you.
Because that's up to them. Yeah. And if they don't want to give you the prices, then don't. So I had a situation with this girl that I sort of knew of. And I'd not really spoken to her in years and years. She wasn't even following me on Instagram. And then she messaged me on Instagram without even following me, asking me about like how much like I pay for printing, like what paper I use, do I print it myself? And I was like, so I just sort of messaged back bluntly. I just said it all depends on the place. It depends on what paper. Just do your research, sort of like just bluntly. And I was like, sorry, like I didn't see this till now because we don't follow each other. But I was like, what? Like, make sure you're following them and like you support them.
I know.
Like support their business as well as you. You know, it's all about give and take. Like you can't just take information from people. You have to like give it back as well. Yeah. Like give support back.
Yeah, no, I get that. So if you are, like I said, if you are asking somebody who on Instagram maybe about what they do charge, you're obviously looking at them as an authority figure, which means they might potentially have more experience than you. So do bear that in mind as well if they do give you prices.
Yeah.
I think everything, like I said, every project is different. Everybody's boundaries are different. Some people aren't comfortable charging what they are worth, and I hope that they gain more confidence with that. And I think that's it. I think it all boils down to confidence and being like, because there's been some projects that I've kind of sent a quote off because it's quite high, because what they want me to do is a lot of work, and I've kind of shut my laptop and I'm like,
I always do. I'm like, oh my god, I hope that's okay. And then when they get back and they're like, yeah, it's fine, I'm like, it's the same when I send work off. I'm like, what if it was rubbish?
I know.
And then they come back and they say I love it, and I'm like, oh god, thank goodness. I thought you were gonna hate it every time.
So no, what works for other designers might not work for you, and it's all I think the one thing that I regret not doing at the beginning, which I do kind of have now, I think I mentioned that before, how I'm starting doing it. So how I used to do my quotes, people filled out a quote form, it gets emailed to me, then I email them back a price.
Oh, you didn't mention what you do now, I don't think.
So
what do you do now? So when your new website comes out, you're doing it differently, aren't you? So you're not doing the quote form.
So I still am doing the quote form, but I'm gonna have actual prices on my website. So the issue is that I've got is because I've got no prices on my website, people don't know how much I charge. So I've had a lot of people being like, oh, I'm just starting out, I've got £50 to do this, and then they've sent me a quote form and I've taken time to read it, and I've sent the email back saying this is like completely like out of how much I charge, here's what I charge, and then it's a shock to them. Whereas now, because I have from this much, from that much, they kind of know where my bracket is, because I would say I'm not the most expensive designer ever, but I'm also not one of the cheaper ones. I think it's just asking people on Instagram is such a great tool, and if people do want to explain to you how much they charge, and even like, because this is it as well, like not necessarily how much they charge, like following on from that, I've had people message me asking me where I get my stock.
See, I think that's really, I don't think that's, I've never done that, and I think it's really rude.
No, I've asked people where they get the stock. So some people will, that if they're manufacturers of a small business and they have an Instagram, they've probably tagged them. So I've used a supplier from somebody else. I was like, oh, they do that. Oh, I'll see who does theirs.
Yeah, but that's because
and that's fine, and they've put that out. But I've had people being like, what paper do you use? What do you get this from? And I've never had a conversation with them before, and I find that a little bit rude.
That girl that messaged me, it's really rude, because like I don't know about you, but I've gone through trial and error to try and find the best products, the best things. I don't want to tell you where I get my things from or like what I use. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I've only got certain things, but maybe I would. I don't know, but
well, that's it. And I think as well, it is different, and it all depends on what your vibe is. Because I've seen a lot of people on Instagram being like, it's gatekeep, and I'll never gatekeep where I get my stuff from. Yeah, but business is business. Like,
it is.
if you're my direct, and I know it's like, oh, some whatever, like togetherness over competition, but when it comes to business, I don't want you undercutting me if we're the same vibe. Whereas if me and you sold the same thing, yes, we are both brightly coloured, but both
it's different
vibe.
It's a different
Whereas
vibe.
if someone who was doing the same vibe as me asked me where I got my stuff from or where my supplier is, I'm not saying you're my direct competition, because I don't like that, but in the field, my business and your businesses are so close, I don't want you undercutting me in prices.
Also, as well, if
because
somebody's
I've built up these relationships with the suppliers.
This is what I was going to say. Like, if somebody's coming to you asking for you, like, let's say they're just starting out and they're like, right, where am I going to start? Instead of doing research on Google and finding, ringing people up and finding the best suppliers, instead of doing research, they're going to go straight to you. That's completely disrespecting your years of research and getting the best product you can for your customers. It's completely disrespecting that, because it's like, oh, I'm not going to do the whole 3 years of like trying to find the best things like you. I'm just going to jump straight into your position now.
There are some people who are so open about it, and that's great, and that's amazing. I've been open about like when I did Pin Badge, I used to tag the company, and they're a small business themselves, and it's great like that. But when they come to these big massive manufacturers, like, it just takes a couple of Googling, and it just takes a little bit of research. And I think that's the best part of your business as well. I think if you jump in steps, you'll miss things, you'll miss little points. And also, I think as well, just because somebody else is doing something and it works for them doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. And like I said, gatekeeping gets thrown about quite a bit, and some things can be seen as like a little bit gatekeeping, but I think it's all down to boundaries. And if you don't want to share where you get your stuff done, that's okay, because you don't have to do anything you don't want to do.
Everybody has different boundaries, and that's okay.
Yeah, and I think that's it as well. So yeah, going back, if you do ask somebody on Instagram how much they charge and you've never had a conversation with them before, it's all right if they don't reply back, because some people, like we've spoken about, some people find speaking about money and stuff like that quite rude, and just because you don't think it's rude doesn't mean that somebody else won't. But yeah, no, so I definitely we wanted to cover the old Instagram asking, because we've asked people,
and we've been asked,
yeah. But yeah,
so when Illustrated by Charlie came on, she told me where she got her printing done, which I really appreciate, and it was like half the price of where I'm getting mine done.
I can't get over how much you was paying for your prints, I think it's wild.
Well, it was the first place that I'd ever been to.
The better quality now where you get them printed
so
now,
much brighter.
They're so bright and they're incredible.
Thanks. But I'm going to keep my prices the same, I think, because
you've now got a studio.
I've now got a studio, and all of my packaging's eco-friendly. The board on the back is 100% recycled. That's very expensive. And I want to call it the plastic cover, which isn't plastic. It's like I always say to people, oh, the worm is elated. Put it in your green bin. Because I feel like my prints are quite cheap for how much I used to pay for them anyway. Yeah. So I think I'm going to keep my pricing the same. But yeah, so much cheaper. But the people that I did use before, they were so nice, but they're too expensive. So
I can't get over how much you were paying. But yeah, wanted to kind of follow on from that and talk about when we was kind of hitting the points of experience as well. experience does allow us to build up prices, not necessarily years, but because we was having this conversation. So if I've been doing this, like I said, I've been doing this for 3 years now. And so I have 3 years worth of experience. But in that 3 years time, I've worked with so many clients that I feel comfortable charging how much I charge.
Yeah. So
I know people who have been doing it for 5-6 years, but they do a client job every now and again.
Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily mean time. It's actually the hands-on physical experience as well. And there's another thing as well. So it's like, obviously you've got the freelance version of it. So like you've been freelancing for 3 years. But if you'd have had like a design job for 3 years before then, you would have started off a lot higher when you started as well. So it all depends on that as well. And we were saying as well, so if you've got an education background, so this is my point, right? If I've got a graphic design degree and I come straight out of uni and I'm doing graphic design compared to, so obviously I'm just starting out, but let's say for example you don't have a graphic design degree and you were starting out, is that all right for me then? Is it because I'd be trained?
Like I said, it's all down to experience, and this is something that I've had actual discussions with people with, saying education isn't everything, and I don't believe that you need to have an education to be a graphic designer or an illustrator.
Education is experience as well.
Yeah, so I think then, so like you were saying, if you've done 3 years at uni doing graphic design, and you and another person both come out and you both start your jobs there, yes, the person who's been in education will price themselves higher, not because they've been in education, but because they have 3 years on that other person. And they
know what they're doing.
Yeah, because there's some amazing like graphic designers that have never been
to uni
or anything, and they're fabulous and they charge large rates, but that's because they have experience.
To be honest, I don't think that I'm glad that I went to uni, but for what I'm doing now, I didn't need to.
Well, that's it for me. Like, I have a first class degree in contemporary art, but I'm now
You're not doing contemporary art,
like a graphic designer illustrator.
Yeah.
So it's one of them. Like, I'm really, really contemplating going back and doing a master's.
Oh, that's cool.
Which I think it would be a part-time one, so it'd be over 2 years. I'm trying to work out whether I've got enough time to do that. I'm thinking potentially I might do it this year, next year, just to see.
You never told me. Oh wait, maybe you did tell me this.
I've told you
and
that I've been kind of thinking about it, because I would love, because I think I mentioned this the first ever episode, I love education. I love it. I love going to uni. I fucking hated school, but we just don't speak about school. College was a bit ropey. But uni, like, I loved the lectures. I loved the uni, like, actual school uni bit. It's something that I thrive off. I thrive off learning, but it has to be structured, and that I can't learn off my own back. I really, really struggle to get myself to sit down because I feel like I could be doing other things. Whereas when I'm aiming towards a degree, I think that's great. So yeah, I'm really debating going to uni to do graphic design or like a graphic design illustration course.
That's so cool.
Because
I wish I'd have done illustration at uni.
Me too.
We didn't know then. How are you supposed to know what you want to do at 18?
No. But I feel like it will be great for me, because I feel like that will then give me some authority and some more confidence with pricing, and I'll be able to learn new skills. Keep listening to share updates on that. But yeah, no, I've always wanted to do a master's, and I've always wanted to get a PhD as well. So I think that's something that, depending on how my life goes, I would like to get a PhD in like my mid to late 30s, start it.
That's stunning.
Cool. I would just like to be like Ross out of Friends, how he's a doctor of fossils. I'd love to be like
I'm a doctor of pixels.
Like, love that. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So going back to education, I don't necessarily feel like it's needed to get somewhere in the creative industry, but I feel like it does give you that little bit more confidence to be like, I've gone to uni for this. I'm going to charge X, Y, and Z.
See, I did fashion design. And obviously a part of that, but only a very tiny part of that, was illustration after you've designed the collection. So it'd be like, photo shoot or whatever, but to actually show hypothetically what it would look like if they were made on a person. And that was my favourite part ever. So sometimes I would do the illustration before I'd design anything, and I go, right, so it's got to look like this at the end. So I'd like develop a top and be like, right, it starts like this and then it ends like this, even though I've already decided what it's going to look like.
So you knew that you was an illustrator.
I knew I was an illustrator, but like,
so
I've got a fashion design degree, which I still consider, because it's not similar at all, but I still consider that as experience, and I put that on my portfolio, and I say I've got a degree in fashion design.
Yeah, because I feel like it shows that you have been to education for something, and some, like Soph was saying,
vaguely similar.
Yeah, some people, if they are purely looking at education, it's probably not the best place for you to work, because education isn't everything.
It's not.
But I feel like I said, if you do feel like you need to go to education to learn something, maybe if you do like me and you do struggle to make yourself learn things by yourself, you need that added pressure, because I work
it is a lot of pressure, isn't it?
I think I work a lot better under a lot of pressure. I seem to create great things because I've got no time to be super like overthinking everything. If you want to be freelance, I don't really think that you need necessarily in education.
Your skills speak for themselves no matter where you got them from. Look at Skillshare, like you can learn so many different things in different ways, and there's so many resources out there.
Skillshare is great. I have Skillshare.
I do. I've not been on it in months though.
Skillshare, sponsor us.
Yeah, sponsor me, and then maybe I'll actually go on there and try and learn something. That's
no, I like to have it on in the background sometimes, like instead of listening to a podcast episode, I'll just have it on and just kind of listen to the same one over and over again, and I'll just pick some up.
Do you know what? I've actually forgot about this. So when we decided we were going to do a podcast, I actually went on Skillshare and I did a little course on like how to start a podcast. And thanks to Skillshare, we're here now. So Fabulous. Sponsor us, please. So in terms of resources as well, I follow, and I know that Roxanne follows, Key May, Creative Champs.
Amazing.
She's amazing. And you went to...
Yeah, so I went to one of her pricing workshops, which was honestly so informative, because I like to go to workshops, and I'm a part of quite a few like business communities, but sometimes they can be very broad. It's hard to find like actual creator things. But Key May does a lot of, because she's a creative person, she does a lot of workshops that are catered to the stuff that I'm interested in. I don't have to try and merge it into my business. Yeah, so I went to one of her workshops and it was so insightful. It was like 25 quid. It was, I think, maybe like an hour and a half. It was in an evening as well, so I think I was eating my tea at the time. And
nice and casual. You can't do that in a lecture, can you?
No, because she's so down to earth and just so chill.
She's very cool.
She's so fucking cool.
I watch her videos and she's so funny. I'm like, oh my god, like, can we actually be friends? Like, I know she mentioned that she wanted to move up north, and I'm thinking, I hope she moves to Manchester.
No, she's just so cool, so cool. If you don't, we'll leave all of her links in the description, because me and Laura are massive fangirls.
Yeah.
Because she does these little skits and they are fucking hilarious.
You will relate.
You will relate, 100% relate. But yeah, no, so it's very easy to follow because everything is kind of put in simple terms, and it's very like a friendly atmosphere, and like her workshops are very friendly, and it's just like you're chatting with a mate, which is really, really nice. I also wanted to mention that she actually has some freebies on her Creative Champs website.
She does indeed. What an angel.
Yeah, she has a community membership platform that has a lot of in-depth workshops, etc. There are some really good takeaways that I've got from the workshop, but I do not want to go in depth and talk about them because Kia's actually worked so hard to make these workshops, and obviously she doesn't work for free, so I don't want to come on here and be like, here's everything I learned from that workshop, and then give it you for free, because I don't think that's fair.
It's yeah, you're right. I think
it wouldn't sit
keep
right
that
with
for
me.
yourself.
Yeah. But like I said, I think she does these pricing workshops semi-often, and they're only 25 quid.
That's well worth it.
And it's great, and there's some sections, and she does like Q&A, so I asked some questions. I think I asked, how do I tell a client that I don't want to work with them without sounding like a dick? And she was just like, just tell him, just say, this doesn't work well with me. And I was like, all right, okay. She gives you kind of the validation that you need sometimes.
Basically, like, don't be worried about sounding like a dick.
So I don't really want to share her knowledge without her consent, really. So we've just decided not to. But like I said, there are loads of freebies. on her website, on the Creative Champs website, and she does these workshops semi-often. She does quite a lot of
I'm going to go to
workshops.
the next one.
Yeah, it was honestly incredible. I got so much from it. Something that I did want to say that she did point out, she spoke to us about the most expensive logo. So it's kind of like it gives you the authority to be like, if these people can charge this, you can charge a couple of grand. Simon Tech logo cost 1.28 billion.
I'm looking at it, right, and I'm thinking it's not even great. Sorry, I know that sounds bad. It's not that great, is it?
I mean, it's not my vibe, but yeah. So, and like,
what's that one there?
British Petroleum logo and marketing, it cost 210
That looks like LimeWire.
million. It doesn't like LimeWire, doesn't it? But like, yeah, so it's just all of these different logos that cost so much. Like the BBC logo redesign cost 1.8 million, and it's BBC in black boxes. Like, so
sometimes
this is
the
your
simple
permission.
is better.
I know, but this is your permission that you can kind of like, there's no like, do you know what I mean? Like,
next time somebody slides into your DMs and says
just
how much
send
you
them
charge
that.
for a logo, say 1 million.
1 mil. So fun.
And if they say no, then they're not the client for you.
I love that. But yeah, no.
Sorry,
so,
1 million. All you need is one
For a
client.
low price of 1 million. That's it. Do one client job. Are you done?
One client job, career done.
I love
Amazing. Go travelling, enjoy yourself.
But yeah, so I did want to shine a light on her, Kime, and all the amazing stuff that she does. And
she's so fab.
yeah, just follow her Instagram and the Creative Champs Instagram.
So there are quite a few different points that we wanted to cover on pricing, because there's lots to think about when you want to price yourself.
Yeah.
So the first point is, it all depends on the situation. I know that obviously we said before the AOI basically explains it's okay to charge depending on the client and the size of the client. So that's one thing. Don't charge for time. I think it's good to base your prices on how much you want to earn per hour, but don't just charge for time.
Yeah.
Because there's so many things.
There's so many different factors to take in. So don't just charge for time, also charge for usage. So if you charge X amount for your, let's say, if you charge £30 for a t-shirt design, and this design is going to ASOS.
Don't charge £30
Do
for
not
ASOS,
charge
by the way.
Yeah, no, but
Charge
I'm just saying.
£10,000. No, I'm joking.
$1 million.
$1 million.
So yeah, so if you do want to charge £30 for a design and it's going to someone, like going to ASOS, take into account how many lots they are selling. So I know that Laura does this. Laura adds, right, this is how much it's for the design and this is how much I take per unit.
Yeah, so
If
say
that
for
makes
example, you've sold a t-shirt for $1 million to ASOS, and then they, in the first month, sell 10,000 units of that t-shirt design, and you have said in your agreement, I want 8% of every sale, or whatever, you're going to then keep making money off that. And that is very, very, very important, especially if it's for a big client as well and it's going on merchandise, because you don't want to just charge a set fee. You don't know how many they're going to sell, and also you want to think about the time as well. You don't want to sell that to them with the full license and then them sell it in the next 10 years and you still not make any money from it.
Well, this is it. This is where it all comes down. So I've never actually licensed my work. I think I have a few times, but it all depends on what company I'm working for, and it all depends on what's worth my while. I have a client who I've been working with now for years, quite a few years, and I don't charge her a license fee because of the amount of designs I do for her. So it keeps,
so that's your boundary.
It balances out that way. Whereas I've had some new designs where I've not charged them a license fee because I know they're just starting out. These are tester products and their margins are already low.
See, even then though, I still think it's really important. This is what I'm learning. I'm only sort of starting to do this now, to still license. So it's like, this design, I'm going to charge this much for 6 months of usage. And if you want to come back and say, I still want to continue selling this because it's doing well, that then gives them the option. If it's not doing well and they're only just starting out, that's fine, they can leave it. But in 6 months' time, that you can then say, right, I'm going to charge you a small fee to continue it on for another 6 months. Because if you just sell it for like, you don't know how well that's going to do. That could sell millions. Do you know what I mean? Like, even if it's a startup, I think, but the startup could do amazing, and then they're making loads of money off your design and you only made 50 quid. Do you know what I mean?
This is it. Yeah, this is something that I'm learning now, because
same for me. Like,
since speaking to Laura about licensing designs, I think because I had a very bad experience once when I did license a design, and my email address got blocked from their account, and I've not been able to get in touch with them, so I've never actually been paid for the work that I did. Because it was when I was starting out, this company was like, hi, we're looking for an illustrator. We want to do these nail press-on designs, and we want to give you 20% of each sale.
20%?
20% of each sale, but we're not paying you. You will get the 20% quarterly.
So it's like commission kind of thing.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's great. Got my design.
That's a red flag. That's a red flag straight away.
I've been on the website. They've never added these nail designs to the website.
So you just work for free?
So I work for free, and I think then that's what put me off the licensing of it, because I wouldn't know how to keep up with it, and I obviously I have like bad trust issues with it. That I wouldn't trust them that they're telling me the right figures.
Well, the thing is, that's why you've got to do a contract.
Yeah.
And if they sign that contract, then they've got to do it.
Yeah.
It's a legal document. Do you know what I mean? Like, you could go to small claims court and say, like, I want this money. But yeah, never, make sure you charge straight away as well.
That might be something I do actually starting from now. I'm going to start licensing, and I'm going to ask you how to do it.
I think you should. And also, you can license a design that you've done for a company specifically, but you can also license designs that you've already got. So say, for example, I've got this illustration, and someone says, I want to put this on a t-shirt, but I don't want it forever. I can say, right, I'm going to give you the license for just t-shirts. You can't print it on anything else. In the thing, it's in the contract, it's going to say just t-shirts. You can't put it on anything else, and nobody else can have it for these next 6 months. If you don't renew that license in the next 6 months, I can then license it onto somebody else.
Yeah.
And also, I can license it for somebody who wants to put this illustration on a wall hanging or on a pencil case, like, stationery, because you haven't bought the license for these 6 months for all of those things, just a t-shirt. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then, like, when they've finished that 6 months, if they say, yeah, I want it for another 6 months, they can have it for another 6 months. But then after that 6 months, if they say, I don't want it anymore, you can license it again to another company for a t-shirt, and you can like reuse the same design then again. I've never done that, but I think that sounds great.
Yeah.
That's really good for patterns, actually, for you.
Yeah, that's it. So
it's a good for a pattern.
When my website reopens, I'm going to have a pattern shop, so people will be able to pay, and it's an unlimited license.
That's really good,
Which means you can print it on whatever, as long as because it comes under, I have a big like license document that comes with every single sale that says you can have an unlimited license, which means you can use it on whatever you want to print it on, whether it be packaging or harnesses or fabric and stuff like that.
Can I just put in and say, whenever you say harnesses, I know that you're used to doing dog wear, but you never preface that it's dog harnesses. So I always think, oh, sexy.
Dog harnesses. Yeah,
I've never said that before, but when I was editing, I was like, oh, sexy.
It's like, no, not that kind of harness. But because my website, there will be like the same design but in different colorways. When you buy a colorway, that's the only design that you've got. So for example, if you buy the black and white one and there's like a green and yellow one, I can then sell the green and yellow one to somebody else. But I wanted to make something that is affordable for smaller businesses that are starting out, that can't afford my bespoke design services.
And it's good because it's passive income, which is what everyone dreams of.
Well, that's it. That's what I'm trying to look into.
You can run off to Bali and let them sell themselves.
I love that. Well, that's it. That's the goal. I think it's just to try and have a lot of like income streams, because it is difficult when you solely rely on one kind of income stream as well.
Oh, I can't tell you. Like, when this episode comes out, I'm going to be going to Italy a week after. And I've got to tell you right now, I've got no money in my bank account, so wish me luck over these next few weeks.
I know. I don't know how you're just not stressing.
I am stressing, but I'm just trying to manifest.
Yeah, all that good vibes.
All the good vibes. Yeah. So we've already said this, but I think it's definitely worth saying again. Ask the client for their budget first. Because if you're, let's say, I know we keep going back to t-shirt designs, but if, let's say, ballpark figure, you charge £200 for a t-shirt design, and a client comes to you and says, how much you charge for a t-shirt design, and you say £200, they could have been thinking 500 quid. And you would never have known, you could have got paid loads. Whereas if you would have asked them their budget and they said 500, you could then go, oh, actually, that's great. Or you could even say, well, actually, I charge 600, and then they go, right, okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
and you could have charged 200.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
think though, I think it's safe to preface as well, like, don't take the piss.
No, don't take the piss. But a lot of the time, their budget probably is higher than what they're going to say.
Yeah,
their budget
100%.
Most likely is going to be 800 quid, and they're going to say 500 to try and test their luck. It's like kind of like who goes first. It's like.
Yeah, I think as well, if you if you have like a Google sheet or a spreadsheet of your prices and how much you charge, you have something to go off. I always quote higher.
Because if they say
higher than what it is, so then it allows me time for revisions and amendments. I think that's it. I think that's something else to clarify as well. When you do get, number one, contracts. I think I've said this loads of times.
Important.
Please make people sign contracts. Also on the contract, please explain how many revision rounds and amendment rounds you're going to do. I've had it in the past where I've not specified, and they've wanted like fucking so many.
That is the worst. That's the absolute worst.
So
when they're like, can you just change this?
Change this, change
that.
that. Exactly. And it's like, it's not worth my time now.
A few's fine. Like up to 5, I think's okay.
Yeah, so I include 2 revision rounds in my prices, and any more I charge the hourly rate then.
See, I do. But then sometimes they have asked for over, and like they've done, like 5 revisions, and I'm like, oh, it's fine. Because it didn't take me that long. Do you know what I mean?
And also, I think it's great to specify that a revision isn't a redesign. So I've had people in the past where I've sent them, so like for example, if I do like branding projects, I've sent them a few logos, a few mock-ups, and then they've chosen one and we've gone through it all, and then they've got to the end and they're like, oh, actually I've been rethinking about this and I want to kind of switch it up. Well, I'm sorry, that's a new brief and that's a new contract. You've paid me for what I've done. Now if you want to go forward with that, this is a new contract and this is a new brief, because that's it, you go off the briefs as well.
That's why I think it's really important. I don't know if you do this, but I really like, once I've like figured out a price and whatever, I like to have a video call, because then we can really I think you can really understand what the client wants more than an email.
Yeah, this is something that I've never done before.
Oh, do it every time, you got to do it.
Yeah, I've never done an email, a video call, and it's something that I am going to start doing in future. It's, where you both stand then.
It's like an actual, like a proper conversation where you can be like, oh, they can say, oh, actually, no, I didn't mean that, and you can share your screen, and then that just like, exactly what you're doing then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think, but it's good to get someone's budget before
100%
before you do
get
these
their
video
budget
calls,
first,
because it takes some prepping.
Yeah, and also they could, obviously I said, their budget could be £600, but their budget could be £100, and then you can say, sorry, that's not for me, and then all you've done is reply to an email instead of go through. I've had it before where I've done like a video call, done all this, done all that, and then they've said, oh, actually this is too expensive, and I'm like, oh my god, I've wasted all that time and I'm not going to do it.
And like I mentioned before, like I've taken jobs for cheaper than what I would usually, because it's a project that I'm really into,
and that's okay.
Yeah, and it's like I have a list of types of businesses that I want to work with, and if they got in touch with me, or if I sold myself to them, if I emailed them and kind of been like, hi, this is my portfolio, like this is what I want to do, I might have more intention of leeway to move my prices about a little bit, because it's something that I want to do. Whereas if it's something that I don't want to do, I'm less likely to move my prices around.
So I was just selling it at Altrincham Market on, a couple of days ago. I won't go into it, but I'm never selling there ever again. Terrible. Made £6 on the Sunday. And I went into Idaho, which is a really, really cute shop. And it's just like, I walk in and I'm like, oh my God, this is me. Like if I had a shop, I'd have a shop like that. And the manager was in and I just said to her, I said, it's really nice to meet you. Here's my business card. Like here's some of my work. If you ever want to like stock any of it, like I'd be really happy to give you some prices, like wholesale prices. And then I said to her, I said, if you ever want any window displays doing, because I've only done a few, I would like to offer it to you for free. You just, have to cover the cost of the pens or like if I ended up using paint. And she's like, oh yeah, that sounds great. And that's okay because that's my boundary. Whereas if she would have come to me and said, can you do this for 20 quid? I'd have been like, no. And I wouldn't have done it even though I would have got more money than if I'd have done it for free. Does that make sense?
I think that's it as well. And I think it's okay to work for free if that's something that you want to do.
But only if you want to.
Only if you want to. Don't feel like you have to work for free because your creativity and your talent isn't worth anything. If you know your worth, but you're like, this is something that I want to do, and this opportunity doesn't come round
very often.
When it comes to pricing yourself, I feel like we need to mention tax. For example, if you want to make 25 grand a year, approximately, you need to bring in 31.
So that extra 6k is for tax and national insurance and everything.
The calculator I used, obviously everybody's situation is different, everybody calculates different things, and also make sure that you're doing your books right so you don't have any like nasty charges or anything like that,
or go to jail. Every time I've done mine, I'm like, oh my God, am I gonna go to jail? Have I done this right? Because I never keep, like, there's receipts that I've lost. Do you know what I mean? And I just hope for the best. Well, I mean, I'm making that little that the taxman's not going to come knocking on my door. I'm not making millions.
That's it. This year I thought that, I've made decent, like an okay wage, like it's not amazing. I'm looking, I'm like, maybe I haven't earned as much as I thought.
Well, I'm the same, and like it all depends on how much you spend as well, because obviously if you've got a lot of outgoings, you might see what's coming in, but like when you actually even it out,
that's
you are gonna
when your outgoings
less
are like
tax.
little here and little there. Also, price take into account where you're working from, your equipment.
See, I don't do that.
Again,
I just whatever happens.
Again, Kime, the Creative Champs, she has a very in-depth way to figure out the ways that you should be pricing, whether you price yourself hourly. I think it all depends on the type of jobs as well. But like I said, if you do go on the Creative Champs Instagram or see Kime, I think it'd be good if you just drop her a DM and just be like, come from the Do It For Yourself podcast, and they spoke about they spoke about your pricing. Is there any like freebies that you have, or is there any
when's the next workshop?
Key is somebody who I would highly recommend following. Anyway,
I was just going to say, for me, obviously trying to work out how much you need to put away for tax and sort of like guesstimating how much you want to earn, and then that obviously like each month you can sort of figure out how much you need to make, and that's sort of the way that you can price your projects. So you can price yourself. I think most freelancers do a day rate, so like if they're working for a company, so this is what I learned at my co-working space, they'll do like £350 a day. That's how much they were charging, but obviously they'd come out of the industry, a lot of them, so they were very knowledgeable anyway. Whereas I price per project, so I price dependent, obviously like the Association of Illustrators doesn't say per hour or per day, it just says per project. So because of that, I've sort of based it off that, and I would prefer to do that anyway, because if, like you've said before, if you base it on time or a day rate, you probably end up getting less money, because if you're really highly skilled and you can bash it out in a day, my day rate, if I ever do day rate, is 250 quid, but the project is probably worth maybe £700. So do you know what I mean? It's all based on skill. It's not just based on time.
Right. Because if you do price yourself by the hour and you get better at your job, so then you end up pricing less than what you pay pricing before.
Well, I guess your hourly rate would go up, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I suppose, but I don't know. I think it all depends on what makes you comfortable. I do project based, and I kind of set on, this is how much, this is the starting point, this is how much you charge, and this is what you get for this. Any more amendments will be charged at my hourly rate. And
I do a higher hourly rate for that. I've never done it, but so my hourly rate is at about 30, whereas I say like for extra amendments, for extra time that I wasn't calculating for, 45 quid.
I think as well, I think it's good to know that just because it takes you X amount of hours doesn't mean that it's just your time that you should be accounted for. It's also you should be accounted for your experience, and you should be accounted for what that business is getting back from you, and how much they are getting back from it. And I think, like I said, it all depends on what you're comfortable pricing. Also, a red flag for a client if they won't give you their budget. Red flag.
Yeah, this has happened to me before with a really big client, and they were like, they never ended up telling me their budget. They just said they couldn't afford me, and I was like, but, and they're like, that's too expensive. I'm like, well, what do you want then? And they're like, well, what can you do? And I'm like, what? Like, they just wanted me to explain it, and I explained it, and they didn't get it. But another thing I was going to say was, if you just charge for your time, so let's say, for example, you're thinking, right, in order to live and on, like, you know, what I want to live. So let's say you're saying to yourself, right, I want £20 an hour to live off. You obviously also need to account for your business overheads, because you're not going to have that if you work minimum wage somewhere. But then obviously you've obviously also got to think about your tax, all of this, blah, 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 blah. So really you need to charge a lot more than your £20 an hour, maybe like 40 an hour, to make sure that you're still taking home that £20 an hour for your actual self, and then the rest is for your business, because we've got our own businesses at the end of the day. Well, like, you've got to like, see, I don't do this either. Like, every single bit of money goes to my living expenses, and I don't account for anything else. So like, if my laptop breaks now, I'm fucked, because I've not got that part, and that's really important. And this is something we need to preface, like, if you can do this, like, let's say you're living at home and you haven't got rent to pay, or you've not got a studio to pay for, and you can, don't spend that money like I did. Keep it to the side, because if my laptop breaks now, I can't do work, but I also can't pay for it because I've not got the work on. Does that make sense? You really need to think about it. It's not, so when I feel like, especially small businesses, if you're saying to them, I charge £40 an hour, they're like, whoa, minimum wage is like £8. That's ridiculous. Yeah, but that's so high, but it's not the same. It's not the same. Really not the same. So as a freelancer, you need to charge a lot more, and people don't realise that.
No.
And you're not getting £40 an hour.
When someone says, oh, my hourly rate is £40, they're not receiving that £40 an hour.
No, it's not all going in my pocket.
No,
I'm not spending all this in Topshop.
No.
Oh, Topshop.
Rest in peace.
Sorry.
Before we get into a very juicy Am I the Arsehole?
Oh my God, Roxanne's got a good one for me. I'm excited.
We would open up about what we charge, because like we said, we're always going on about how much we charge and stuff like that. So
we never actually said the amount.
Said the amounts of like what we charge for certain things. So Laura, would you like to go first?
It just all depends on, obviously, who the person is, and I always go back to, so I did actually, I don't know if this is naughty, but I did actually save the AOI file. Well, I was paying for it, so I think it's fine. So I can go back to it and say, right, what should I do? And that's how I knew last time somebody came to me for t-shirt design and knew that 8 to 10% was the average for royalties as well. So I knew that. So recently I did 4 t-shirt designs with a small startup company, and I charged £950 for those designs, and then I'm going to get 8% on top of that. But because we're sort of doing the 8% on top of that, and also we sort of like worked out a deal, I'm going to promote it, she's going to promote it, she's going to say it was by me, because a lot of the time, because that brand has the copyright, she didn't need to say it was designed by this person, but she's going to big me up, I'm going to big her up. And I've said to her,
do you sell your copyright to people?
No, she's not. No, I've not sold the. Sorry, I said that wrong. I've not given her the copyright, so she can't do what she wants with it. But I've given her I've given her.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. I've given her a full lifetime license, so she can do. Obviously, it's just for t-shirts. So if she wants to put it on something else, she can. But she'd obviously have a little bit of an extra charge. But if she wants to sell those t-shirts for 10 years, she can, as long as I've got the 8%.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to charge her again in 6 months. If that makes sense. Yeah. The most I've ever charged is 4,500, which sounds insane. And when I sent that quote off, and obviously we agreed on it, I was like, this is amazing. But it was for, if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen it. It was for an online children's audiobook. So it was like a play that they'd recorded with actors, and then I did the illustrations. But it ended up being, so we'd agreed on the price before realising how many illustrations there would be. So we looked through the script, spent quite a lot of time together reading through the script, figuring out what needed an illustration. And we ended up doing 60 illustrations. And the beginning of it, she either wears a blue jumper or an orange jumper. So obviously all the illustrations I had to do one with an orange jumper, one with a blue jumper, which wasn't too bad, but in the end it was like 120 illustrations. So we said we'll do it over a month, and I was like, I can do it. So I'd send them the sketches, 10 sketches at the beginning of the week. Each month was 10 sketches. So each week was 10 sketches, so we were like, let's do it over 6 weeks. So I send 10 sketches at the beginning of the week. Then I would go on a call and they'd say this and that, amazing, amend the sketches, and then I would draw them over like 3 days, 10 illustrations like that over 3 days. A lot of the time I just didn't sleep, and I'd just started my pub job, which was 3 days a week, and it was bad. And then in the end it ended up being over 3 months. So 3 months work as a freelancer, because obviously I couldn't take on any extra work, for 4,500 isn't really a lot. Even though it sounds like a lot, it wasn't. And it's probably worth like 10k, that, really.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah, 100%.
They wouldn't have been able to, well, maybe they would have, but as like they were a small business themselves. But that's how much I charge. That's the most I've got, but it really wasn't a lot, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought I'd better give a backstory so people aren't like, whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah. After 3 months, what's that breakdown? 4,500. It's what, 1,000 and something every month, which is
like minimum wage. Yeah. Obviously I was so happy to do it anyway. Like I'm very glad that I did it. I would have done it again. It was an amazing opportunity to be able to do something like that and have that on my CV, my portfolio. So that was good. But obviously sometimes you need to think about the time that it's going to take you to be able to price it properly. And I was just I was like, yeah, we can do it in a month. I was like, we'll do it. And in the back of my mind, I probably knew that I couldn't do it, but I just wanted to do everything because they were so nice. They were so lovely, these girls. And I was like, I'm going to do my best and it's going to be amazing. So I actually said to them because I knew obviously that it would be quite expensive. I'd said to them on the call, I was like, look, I want to be fully transparent with you. This is what the AOI says for an order for a book, a children's book, over, for a small business and over this many countries or whatever. So that's what the going rate is. But because it's going to be a few more illustrations, I think the going rate was 3,500 for a book. But then I was like, because it's going to be a lot of illustrations, I'll do 4,500. And they're like, yeah, we think we can do that. Whereas, like, if it would have been 12 illustrations, I could have charged 3,500, which would have been great because I could have done that in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I'd like to know how much you charge for other things as well. For like,
what do I charge for
like logos?
I haven't really done logos. I am about to do a branding project with one of my friends, and because I've never done it before, I was like, I don't want to do it for free because it's going to be quite a bit of work, but I'm doing that for $350, which I think's all right for starting out because I've never done a branding package before. So I've done that for $350.
And I'm going to give you I'll give her some pointers on that.
Yeah.
You'll give me some. What should I do? What do I send? I was like,
what's included? But I just sat down with her. So I actually met up with her in real life and I was like, what do you want? And she listed everything that she wanted, and I was like, we'll just do it all.
Cocoa clay?
Colas Clay.
Yeah.
She's great, by the way.
She messaged me. She was like, oh, I love the podcast. I was like, hi.
Yeah, she's great. And then if anyone wants an illustration for business purposes, so like a podcast cover or whatever, I do obviously normally work with small companies, so I would probably do between £200 to £350. That's what I would do for an illustration. But obviously if somebody wants like 5 people in an illustration and it to be like a detailed background, I'm obviously going to charge a lot more, but that's just sort of based off 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
And then obviously if like for like personal portraits, so let's say you said to me, I want an illustration of me and you on my wall, obviously I won't charge you, but like on my website I charge around 100 for that. So it's obviously a lot cheaper for not a client. I'm trying to think of anything else, like what else? Murals. So when I was looking at window displays, actually I'm part of the Coven, so I went into the Coven and I was just like, I want to do window displays, how much should I charge? Someone had messaged saying, I'll give you some advice, and she said £150 per square metre. And she was like, I don't add anything onto that. So she just said, do £150 per square metre. So basically, I'll ask now for murals, what's the measurements of the wall, and then obviously depending on how much they want. So let's say they want the whole wall painted like I'm going to do with mine. I'll base it on £150 per square metre. But if they only want like a little bit of it covered, or like a third of it covered, or half of it covered, I'll include that in the estimation. So I'll send an estimation over. Full wall, it'll be this much. Half of the wall, this much. A quarter of the wall, third of the wall, this much. And then that's sort of how I do it with murals. Yeah, that's sort of what I charge. Just trying to think of anything else. What else do I do? I don't even know. That's what I do. But obviously, like, maybe I'll put my prices up this year or in a few years. Well, we shall see. But that's, at the moment, that's what I'm charging.
So I've currently got up my new website and
Exciting.
my services page. And I thought I would just kind of walk you through what I'm currently charging. These might be a little bit different when it actually goes live. These are just like my provisional ones. So for my logo design and branding packages, I mentioned last week that I don't do singular logos anymore, which is still the case. I don't just send like one JPEG file anymore like I used to. But I do have a logo starter set, which kind of includes like mood board, color palette, like design concepts for logos, like your primary logo, submat logo, final files, and that's £400.
I think that's great.
For a logo starter set. Visual brand identity investment from £900. So this is from £900. Yeah, from £900. This is the base rate. So that includes questionnaire, mood board, colour palette, logo design concepts, 2 round of amendments. I do make sure people are aware how many amendments they get. It just avoids awkwardness later on down the line. Yes, you've got like your primary logo, your submat logo, you've got your highlight covers, your brand pattern, 2 business collateral designs, which is like stickers, thank you cards, business cards, etc. Brand guidelines, final files, and that, like I said, that's from £900. And then I do have a package that is the ultimate visual brand identity, and this investment is from £1,600. So that includes questionnaire, mood board, colour palette, 3 logo design concepts, 2 round of amendments, primary logo, submat logo, brand mark, website, favicon, highlight covers, Instagram templates, brand patterns, 3 business collateral designs, and brand guidelines and final files. So that is logo design and branding packages that I offer. I do offer as well social media template. I'm going to say the word and it's like Voldemort to me, Canva. Canva is very, very great for new businesses. However, you cannot, this is something I must add, you cannot trademark your logo if you've made it on Canva. And also a lot of the popular Instagram templates are overused. So if you do want to have a very bespoke tone of voice for your brand, and you do want to have a social media feed that is not like anything else that anybody else has done / got, that's why you hire a designer, so you don't use pre-made templates that everybody else can use.
Can I just say, right, so this is just a bit of advice I'm asking from you, if that's okay. Obviously, like we said before, if you don't want to give me this advice, totally fine. But Shoni from Colours Clay, so I'm doing her branding, and she was saying, is there a way that like I could just get a template for social media and I can just like go back in and quickly change the text, a bit like Canva? Is there a way that I could do that for her if she doesn't have Adobe Illustrator?
Yes, you can. I've personally never done it, but you can make Canva templates and upload them to Canva.
Thought, but can it just be for her?
Yes, I think you can potentially. I don't know. You might have to look into that, but if they don't have Illustrator, you can use, so for example, when I say templates, so my clients do still use Canva to use my templates, but like for example, if they say to me, right, I want a font that is available on Canva that I can use, I know what kind of font that they want then, and I know that I can then buy the licensing for that font, so I can design that, so then they can then use that on Canva. A lot of the Canva fonts are free fonts that you can download from like the Adobe font book anyway. So for example, I did a full branding project for a nail artist, and I gave them social media templates, and that consisted of, I think it was 10 backgrounds. So one of the backgrounds were like the colour in the colour palette, so that's the background. And then I've got the brand pattern, that's the background in all of their colourways. And then you've got like different ones where they're like, oh, also what I want like a girl with her nails out, and I want to be able to put that on things. So I've made custom illustrations, and then they put the PNG files into Canva and make them that way.
And they just put the text over the top.
Text over the top. So you can be like...
Yeah. That's great.
And I do say, if you do have any issues and you want to ask me how you can use certain things, it's like I made this custom, like the Instagram question box. I made it look like that. So then she can just put that on top of one of the backgrounds and just add text to it to make it look like really cute.
That's amazing, because I've never used Canva before, so I didn't even... I don't even know what it's like, I didn't know you could just put a PNG on. Yeah, I've never used it, but I've been on there to see what people use it for, and I think it's probably important just for like market research, really, isn't it?
So yeah, so that's social media templates. So going back, so that's social media backgrounds, illustrations, highlight covers, Facebook banners, reel covers, PNG, Instagram stickers. This is, I haven't actually put a quote on here because it all varies on what you want. So having a quote wouldn't really work with this because it all really depends. But I think from the tone of voice, and because you can see how much I price myself for other things, you kind of have like a guideline.
Because it's so varied depending on what people need, because someone might just want story templates. Yeah.
So I also do gifts. That is investments from £250. So my packages include 3 gifts, 9 gifts and 15 gifts. But yeah, so like I said, this all depends on how much, because some people don't realise what goes into making gifts. It's great that you've just got the illustration, but I also have to animate it as well, so it's an extra job.
Yeah, oh definitely, yeah. I've done gifts before. I've only done one job, and that's what I asked Sophie for. I was like, what do you charge? She was like, oh, just this much. Yeah. I'm so grateful. But
I've done it too.
I would like to do more. Yeah. I'd like to make my own like you do, actually. Very cool.
Great. I love
Gives you brand a big identity.
Well, that's it as well. And I think it's great making gifts because you're able just to search them, and it's not images that you have to have on your phone necessarily. So that's how much I charge for gifts. And then like packaging design is from £250. That is where I will require a box template from the manufacturer. And then I do the packaging design like that. So if someone has already got their branding and they want me to do a special, they want like a certain vibe for the one packaging design, that's how much I charge. Custom seamless pattern design is from £175. This all depends. It all depends on the intricacy of them. But at least then they know. So like for example, if you wanted like a super simple pattern, that would be £175. Whereas if you wanted something
more
detailed and more in depth.
Yeah.
And then I also offer Wix website visual design. So the price varies for that. So I've done quite a few websites actually.
Have you? I didn't know
for
this.
Wix. Yeah. So I primarily do Wix because I do my own website. But so it all depends on what you're doing and who you're doing it for and how many pages and stuff like that.
Luna she's been so good all day. She's been asleep, but now she's like, give me attention, mummy.
Come get down. So that is everything that's on my website, and I also have something at the bottom saying that can't see what you want. Here are some other services I offer. So illustrations, thank you cards, business cards, promotional materials, stationery design, greeting card design, website banners, website graphics, stickers, posters, menus, brochures, window art, murals, signage, gift cards, loyalty cards, apparel design, labels, catalogues. And then underneath it, it's like, still can't find what you want, get in touch. So it's kind of like, it's one of them things like with illustration where
there's so many things.
Many things that I can do, and I can't list everything.
See, I love that because I don't have that on my website. I just have.
So this is something that I think you was about to say that you don't necessarily have the prices on your website.
Yeah, I don't. It's not so the prices that I'm very impressed with. It's like the fact that you've like listed all the services, because I've not really put out there, this is what I offer. I just sort of, someone asked me and I go, okay. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's it though as well.
You're not keeping people guessing.
Yeah, and it's my spending habits. Like I won't hire somebody. This obviously it all depends on what you do, but I won't hire somebody if I don't really, and I won't contact them if I don't really know a ballpark figure of how much they charge, because I
It's
I don't
like
wanna
being at the markets.
Yeah.
And you look and there's no prices. I'm going to walk away because I don't want to ask and then go, oh, sorry, bye.
Yeah. So I think that then sets an example of like approximately like how much. And obviously it might be more, it might be less, and it all depends on what business is. Whereas like if a business got in touch with me and was like a massive business and was like, oh, this is how much that I want doing, I'd be like, right, yeah, but these don't apply to you because you're a massive business.
Also, investment from. So 1,600, if Google came in contact with you and was like, we want you to do this, you would be like, no, 10 grand. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we really need to push, I think. Like, because I never realised that you charge different for different brands.
Yeah, but it all varies, and it's all right us sitting there being like, this is how much we charge, but this is based off what we're comfortable charging, our experience, what we're doing. Like I said, like if I do a mural, because I've never actually done it before, I think I would charge a lot less than what I would potentially after doing 3 or 4.
Or even free.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's okay, but as long as you make the client aware that this is the going rate, however, because I want to do this, I'm putting the price down. And I think that's it, and it sets a precedent for the rest of us.
Yeah, because if there's a small business that has consistently hired an illustrator that charges 20 quid and then is like, oh, I fancy something different, I'll come to you, and then they're like, oh my god, 300, that's ridiculous. If that illustrator is honest and says, look, it shouldn't cost this much, but I'm charging you this much, then they're not going to be so shocked when they come to somebody else.
Yeah, it's okay if you want to stay loyal to your regulars. Like I have quite a few regulars where I've raised my prices maybe once or twice, but I charge way more for new clients now than what I do with them. But that's all down to loyalty as well. And just because, so for example, if you got in touch with them like, oh, who do you use for your designs? Just because I charge them that much doesn't mean I'm going to charge you the same, because they've been getting X amount of designs every month for the past year. That's just the way it is, and I'm like, that's my loyalty to you.
So do you want to go on to sorry,
I feel a bit out of breath, so I've just taken a quick 5 minutes so Luna could go out, and I've just taken Luna for a little bit of a run around and a wee, and now I'm a bit out of breath
because you ran up the stairs. I don't know, I always do that whenever I can never walk up the stairs, I always run. Don't know why, it's like a thing.
I think that's rounded everything up, and we've said everything that we wanted to say. Is there anything last comments that you want to make on that?
All I'm going to say is it's all about your boundaries. If you want to charge high, try it. They might say yeah. But yeah, it's all about your boundaries.
It's all about your boundaries and doing your own research. And like I said, we'll add some links into the show notes, but I thought that we'd finish this episode off by doing an Am I the Arsehole. This is our favourite part of this.
It is, and you've got a juicy one for me.
I've got a juicy one. I've read the title and the first paragraph, and then I thought, oh, do you know what? I might actually want to blind react to this. It's an interesting one, and it might have a split. And it's from a point of view that we've never covered before.
Okay, go. I'm excited.
Am I the arsehole for not monetising my hobby? I, 28 female, drew a lot as a kid and thought I wanted to be a professional artist, but after opening commissions one summer, I realised that I preferred to keep it as a hobby. It helped me de-stress, and deadlines, client, upkeep, etc. made it stressful. I have a good career now where I make okay money, enough to pay the bills and have a little left over that I find fulfilling. I live with my boyfriend, 30 male, and he makes quite a bit more than I do, and anything nice we do together usually comes out of his pocket. We had a secret Santa at work, and I got Linda, 50-ish female. I really like Linda. She was a mentor to me when I first started, and she's just really nice. I decided to make an illustration for her and have it framed. I was pretty confident I knew her taste well enough to make something that she would really like. It only cost me materials and my time, and I thought it came out really nice. Linda absolutely loved it and asked if she could post a photo of it to Facebook, which I agreed to. Linda's line of work requires her to keep in touch with a lot of authors. One of them, Beth, saw her Facebook post. Trying to be vague here, but this author has won several awards and is pretty well known. Beth asked Linda if I would be willing to illustrate her new book cover. Linda asked me, and I enthusiastically said yes. We got in touch and sorted out timelines and budget, which I was happy as a clam. When I told my boyfriend, and he said he was proud of me, especially when I said how much I would make. Broken down to an hourly rate, it's quite a bit higher than what I make at work. Over the past few days, boyfriend has been mentioning a lot about how he thinks I should do art full time. I am good at it. I obviously have an audience for it, and I would like to make more money. I told him I would prefer to keep it as my de-stressing hobby, but appreciate his support. He's been really insistent about it though, and thinks I'm being stubborn/selfish by not doing art full time. I told him to think of this as a nice holiday windfall and nothing else, but he insists that I'm wasting my talent by not monetizing it, and it's starting to strain our relationship. Am I the arsehole?
No. She can do what the fuck she wants. I'm sorry, but that boyfriend's obviously seeing that she can make quite a bit of money. But remember, this is only one project. She's still got to get herself out there. She's not going to have a project like that every hour of every day. I think that her boyfriend's the arsehole. I really do. I think she can do what she wants. And remember, we've said as well before that sometimes with work like this, it can take the fun out of it. And if it's a de-stressor, she's not going to be de-stressing if she's doing it full time.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's why I chose this one, because it's a very interesting point of view. So we're usually talking about people who want to monetize their hobby. Like, we are people who actively
want to do that.
And I think it's interesting. For not monetizing her hobby, I think the wording is wrong, because she is monetizing it. She just doesn't want to do it full time.
Yeah, I'm sure if in 6 months' time the same author said, do you want to do it again for the same amount of money, she'd say yes.
Yeah, so you are monetizing it. I think that's the wrong use of words. But I think if someone doesn't want to do their hobby full time, and because this is the issue that people get. People see these big jobs that illustrators and designers do and think that that's how much we make all the time. I'm going to be completely transparent now. I've had probably the worst 2 months out of the whole time I've been freelancing.
And this is like 3 years in, isn't it?
Yeah,
you never know.
I've not made enough to cover my bills, so I've had to dip into savings. I think trust the universe. I think the universe has given me that. So I have still been pulling 16-hour days, but I've been doing a lot of personal work, and I don't know if I'd be able to fit in a lot of client work if.
Do you know what I said to George yesterday? He was like, oh, what are you doing? You working still? And I was like, yeah. And it was like 10 o'clock at night. And I went, it's funny, isn't it? Like, I'm working so hard for little money. And he went, yeah, it is really, isn't it?
That's it. And I said,
just always working. Max, and I'm like, where's my bank account?
Exactly. I was like, oh, you're working a lot, aren't you, chicken? And I was like, yeah, but I don't have any money. I was like, because this is all
You've
stuff I'm doing for me. Yeah, and
you've got to trust the process.
I'm hoping this website does really well. And
it will.
My portfolio looks great, and I hope that brings in. But yeah, no, going back to am I the arsehole? I think the boyfriend's the arsehole, because you can't force someone, and I think it's really naive for him to think that that's going to happen every month, every week, every day.
He's being selfish, and to call her selfish for doing what she wants to do. Well, yeah, surely it's her life. She can do what she wants to do. But he's the one who's being selfish. Well. He's being selfish because he's thinking about his coin. Yeah. And how she's going to make him more money. And I don't think that's fair. I really don't. No. I think it's absolutely disgusting. And it says here at the bottom, it's starting to strain our relationship. And I think if that is starting to strain your relationship, I think you've not got a strong relationship. Sorry.
So someone's commented, not the arsehole. Anytime you tell someone no and they continue, they're the arsehole. You need to be very firm with him and let him know how strongly his insistence is affecting you. If he isn't comfortable with the financial divide or needs help paying for things, then that's what needs to be separate. That needs to be a separate conversation. Coercing you into a job that isn't going to help anyone in the long term. Yeah. And then someone's explained to him that the pay is higher because 1, it's a freelance gig, you'll be paying your own taxes on it. 2, you have to hustle for more freelance gigs, and they are typically long stretches of no work in between higher paying gigs. 3, you have to pay for your own health insurance. So this is America. You have to pay for your own health insurance.
Oh God, yeah.
4, you wouldn't actually be making more money. Your take home would most likely be less for a long time. This gig was a windfall. Enjoy it, but don't let your boyfriend expect life of a freelance artist will be easy.
Because it's not. And do you know what? Everything that he's just said there is everything that we were saying.
Yeah. They've put, this right here. When you freelance, you might make a month's pay in a week and then you might not have work for another 2 months. I think that is something that's definitely happening to me. Like, I remember one month I made maybe like 4 or 5 grand in 1 month and it was amazing. But then the month after that, I made 500 quid. So it like ebbs and flows. Yeah, and then someone else put, not the arsehole, one commission does not guarantee you a full time of work. It's stressful and means uneven income streams. Your boyfriend is seeing a cash cow for him and is being very selfish. That is a red flag.
It is a red flag.
I might go on
is.
their account and see what they've actually they've only responded to one.
What have they said?
One comment. Someone's put, info, are you making ends meet with your current job?
Well,
and
she did say that.
Yeah, she says, yes, we split utilities, rent, etc. evenly. He is able to save and spend more on what he wants than I can, but we live comfortably on our combined incomes. This is something, obviously, a little bit kind of off topic, but not really. What's your view on this? So, if you bring in, let's just say, easy maths, 10k a year. George brings in 40k a year. Should your bills be split 50-50? Or...
Well, I'll tell you our situation.
Yeah.
So we split bills, rent, etc. evenly, even though my take-home pay is probably half of his. But then he pays for all the food. So we get Gusto, which didn't arrive yesterday. I need to email them. So we get Gusto, which is about £200 a month, and he puts an extra £200 a month in the joint account to pay for that. And if we ever go out for meals, he'll always pay, unless I'm like, oh, let me treat you, which I hate. But it's not because he's a man; it's because I'm earning a lot less. But back in the day, so when he was doing his teacher training, we moved in with each other. And I was on maybe like 21,000. I think rent was only like 500 quid or something. So it wasn't that expensive. But I paid for the rent and he just paid like £200 towards bills because he didn't really have any income.
Yeah, it's
so it all depends.
It all depends.
It all depends on your situation. So if someone's taking in 100k and someone's taking in 20k, I do not think that it's fair to split it evenly at all. No way in hell I would be doing that. If I was on 20k and George was on 100k, no way.
Yeah.
But also, I wouldn't then expect to live in a really big house because he's on 100k.
I was going to say. Yeah.
Because he's on 100k. No, like we find the balance.
Yeah. And yeah, this is something that
find something that the person who is earning less can afford.
Yes. So no, this is something that me and Max don't have to have a conversation about yet. Because we don't have anything that we pay for together. So because I'm on Reddit quite a lot and I'm reading these things, a big thing that seems to happen is if one of the people in the relationship earns a lot of money, let's say 100k, and then another one kind of earns like 10k, the one that earns 100k wants to live a certain type of life, but then still expects the other person to pay half, which then I like, if you're going to live in a really nice house, and if you can afford that, that's great, but let's try and find a little middle ground. Yeah. It's like I think me and Max earn relatively the same. I think he earns more than me because he has more of a regular income because he's a gardener. So he has the same clients like every week, month, fortnight. Yeah, but we kind of earn like roughly the same amount. So we won't have that issue. Whereas then when I get dead rich, when I get super rich,
and I'll be next to you earning just as much.
Yeah. Then if I want to live in a really big house, or if I want to live a certain life, I can't expect him to join in or expect him to pay half. Like that's it. And if you do want to split something half, and I think when the money divide is that big, I think it can cause some issues and it can cause some I'm paying this and I'm paying that.
Money's the biggest cause of breakups.
Yeah. Well, I have some people who say that they do it percentage wise, so they work out how much salary they take in, how much percent of that, and then they both pay that percent towards everything.
That's great. Because like I'm obviously very grateful for the fact that George is supporting me, because him paying more is definitely supporting me. And at the beginning I didn't pay any rent, he paid all the rent, and I just paid for the bills, which is around 300 a month or something. I can't remember, 200, 300 a month, and he still paid for all the food. So I was really grateful for that. But also at the same time, when we moved in with each other, I wasn't really ready financially, and he knew what situation I was in. So it's not as if like I just all of a sudden went, oh, by the way, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to try and start this on my own, but I'm not going to have any money, so I can't pay half anymore. It all depends on the situation. With this, I just think...
Is it, Max?
I think shouldn't be well, I guess he spends on her more. Like if they ever go out and do nice things,
that's what it said, do nice things,
but then they are splitting it evenly. So
I think there's like an underlining issue here with he's obviously not happy with
what she's bringing in, but that needs to be the issue. That's obviously the issue, but he's not being direct about it. He's using this as an example to be like, no, you should do this. Well, really, he needs to sit down with her and say, look, I would really like it if you could ask for a raise, or try and get a job that's a bit higher paid so that we can be a bit more even. Like what's wrong with saying that, then try and force her to do something she doesn't want to do?
And this is kind of follows on for what we were speaking about before. Actually, someone's currently saying this should be higher. People don't understand the difference between an hourly rate at a job with regular hours and benefits and commission money that may or may not come around anytime soon. If a house cleaner makes $18 an hour at a job with benefits, after paid holidays, vacation benefits, etc., they are actually earning a substantially higher than working a side job for $25 an hour. Because of the side job, there are no benefits, you don't get paid for travel time, and maybe you have to provide your own cleaning supplies. I think that's it. That follows on from what we were saying today about, £15 sounds like a lot of money in grand scheme of things, because it's double minimum wage, but I have to pay for my job. Like, that's a nice one to round off on, to just say that everybody will have an opinion on how much you charge. Everybody will have an opinion on it. Everybody will have an opinion how you spend your money, like what you spend your money on. But I think if you're comfortable with it, and if you want to charge X amount, you charge X amount. Maybe you might price yourself out of some people's budgets. That's okay. Maybe you might charge a little bit too low, but if you're starting out, that's okay. If you've been doing it for a substantial amount of time, you have a lot of experience, and you are not charging high enough, I think it's okay for someone to come over to you and be like, hey up, pal. You need to raise your rates.
Another thing as well, holiday pay. I don't know, we talked about that.
And sick maternity pay as well.
Yeah, maternity pay. If I got pregnant now, I'd be fucked. I would. I'd have to, like, I've had this conversation with George before where it's like, hopefully I'm in a really great position in my career when I do decide to have a baby with you, or when we decide to have a baby, sorry, it's not just my decision. And you, because you're a teacher, you work full time, and you can get paternity/maternity pay. You can take the maternity while I still work, because I can't get maternity, so it makes more sense. But I mean, like right now, I don't have enough. Like, you've got to save for that sort of thing, because that's what if you're working for a company, your company has a big pot of money saved for people's maternity pay, so you've got to do that yourself.
And it's trying to. I think that's it. I think that's another good point, is to have these passive income streams that you can be earning some money on, so then when you do go off and have kids potentially, or if you do have to get an operation or something, you are still making an income. Because as of right now, if I got pregnant right now, I wouldn't have enough money to pay.
I wouldn't have enough money to buy a crib, probably not even second hand. No, I would. But yeah, I'd be what are we going to do? Imagine next week. So I've got an announcement. I'm pregnant. Wish me luck.
Love that. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. I feel like we've been chatting for ages. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope we've given you some insightful tips. If you have any tips for us, do let us know.
Yes, because like we said, we're not experts.
Also, me and Laura have been in talks of doing something to make this more of a discussion. So
yes, I was thinking then, what's she gonna say? I was like, oh, I'm excited to hear this. I can't remember what we've been talking about. It's my forgetful brain.
We have been speaking about how we want to move this podcast forward, because it's something that we both really, really enjoy doing. Obviously, we don't get paid for it.
Maybe one day you'll get some ads on here.
I know.
Congratulate us whenever you hear an ad. Hopefully from, who was it that we were talking about before? Skillshare.
Yes, so we've been chatting about how we can move this podcast forward and make it more than just a podcast, because we are growing. Obviously, in numbers wise, it don't look a lot, but we're constantly getting loads and loads of messages from people who are listening.
Thank you so much, by the way, to anyone that messages. Like, whenever we get a message, I like nearly, I'm close to tears.
First screenshots it and sends it to the other one, being like, look what they've just said.
Isn't it?
But yeah,
so bad?
It's fabulous, and we feel like this podcast is needed because of the reception that we are getting. We
feel like we're doing good things, don't we?
Yeah,
we're really pleased that everyone's enjoying it.
But obviously, like, we have these podcast episodes, and we're filming right now. We're filming on the 15th of March. This don't come out until the 29th of March. So we're kind of speaking at you. But we wanted to kind of make this more of a community. So we are going to be making a private Facebook page to make a little community of just illustrators, designers, small businesses, anyone really. Yeah. So we can kind of all go on and have a chat about if we've got a client that's been a bit of a nightmare, being like, this is the situation, how should I handle it? And we all can kind of give our 2 Ps into it. But I think that's the next thing moving forward, to kind of create more of we can have a conversation, and we can have something that's also conversation, and something that's also private as well. So it'll be like a close, you have to be accepted to get in. Like, oh, fancy, look how fancy they are.
Yeah, well, what we'll do is, I reckon we'll give everyone a password on one of the podcasts so that we know that they know that they're a listener.
I don't think Facebook works like that.
No, when you join a group, you have to like enter certain things. Like, they ask you questions. So the question could be, what's the password? And the password could be Luna or something. And then you've got to type in Luna. But like, you've got to have heard it on the podcast. So you've got to be a listener.
Oh, yes. I love that. Actually, I'm going to say, when you listen to this, it's out.
We've got to give ourselves a deadline, otherwise we won't do it.
I won't do it. Yeah,
when we'll put it in the Google Calendar.
Out. Yeah. When you listen to this, it's out. I'm thinking as well, we can also have like a thread where it's like, write down your rates and how much you charge for certain things. I think that'd be quite cool.
That would be cool, because we need to open the conversation about money. We need to talk about money. It's so important, because I think it would be beneficial for everybody. Like, and don't ever be embarrassed. Like, let's say, for example, we had a post that said, how much does everyone charge? Don't be embarrassed if it's £10 and somebody else is charging £1,000. No. Like, that's okay. Like, everyone charges differently. And I think the more we talk about it, the better it will be for everybody.
So yeah, that will be up, and there'll be a link in our bio.
And the password will be, let's say Luna. The password will be Luna. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. We'll set that up today. Let's set that up today.
We're going to set that up today. Yeah.
So when you're listening to this, it'll be up. Amazing. Oh, I love that. Okay, so we best leave, because we've been recording for like hours.
I feel like this is the longest. Like, when we've been recording in the past, I've always thought that the longest episodes were when we have guests on, and now I feel like this is top tier. But it's a big one. I think we couldn't just give it 45 minutes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We really needed to talk about it.
Yeah. So I hope you've enjoyed this podcast episode. I hope you've got something from it. Make sure to check out.
I have. Yeah.
I have.
Sorry.
This conversation. Make sure to check out my new website and let me know what you think. Have a little browse through my portfolio.
Oh, also, I'm going to be adding loads of new prints to my website this week. Loads of new prints. Manchester prints, feminist prints.
So check those out.
All the prints.
Check those out too. Make sure to check out all the links that we've got from Kime and Creative Champs. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this podcast episode.
Me too. And remember, I was going to just add on an Anna situation. Don't be basic.
This is dead funny. So Laura's been sending me voice notes, like I'm doing these accents and trying to say stuff.
Try it out. With this podcast, we're building something like IDF. Oh, you're so basic.
I love it.
So see you next week, and remember, you're not special. Because that's what she says.
Is that what she says?
Vivian, everybody has babies. You're not special.
That whole Netflix documentary was just, the kind of documentary thing was just wild.
I put something on my story yesterday, like, what did I say? Smoothie for breakfast. I'm so basic. And I had like one reply, and I was like, oh God, that wasn't well received.
No.
Right, anyway, goodbye. And remember, don't be basic.
And see you next Tuesday for another episode of the Do It For Yourself podcast.
Bye.